This is the Entrepreneur Unleashed Show, episode 67 with AJ Amyx. Hi, I'm Patty Keating, and I believe entrepreneurs are the future of the world. Over the past 2 decades, I've built 4 businesses in alignment with my values, giving me the freedom to live where I want and do what I love. I'm here to tell you that creating your successful business does not require struggle or sacrifice. So, how do you create the lifestyle business you love doing only what you love? Welcome to the Entrepreneur Unleashed podcast. Anthony John Amyx is a free spirit. He's a husband, an entrepreneur, and a life and business growth strategist for coaches, course creators, and influencers. AJ's on a mission to combine universal spiritual principles with modern day marketing and sales strategies. I'm super excited to hear about that. Awesome. He has helped leaders and entrepreneurs identify and then align with their life's purpose and create life on their terms while making the money that they want. He's been featured on CNN, Business Insider, and Creative Live, and has been a mentor to some of Forbes' top social media influencers. I think I even heard that HubSpot named him as one of the top 10 business coaches in the world for the past 2 years. Welcome, AJ. So good to see you and have you here.
Thanks, Patty. I'm excited to be here. It's going to be fun.
I know it's going to be really fun. So I just want to start off. Is there anything you'd like to share with us that you would like people to know?
I don't know. There's so many things I want people to know. Like, life is amazing. We are creators and we can create a lot of cool things if we kind of really step into a layer of responsibility. So there's so much I could share, but we'll just kind of see where you want to go with this.
We will. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. So let's just start at the beginning. What inspired you to start your business?
Tim Ferriss actually wrote a book called The 4-Hour Workweek. And so I was doing music professionally at the time, reading The 4-Hour Workweek. And I was like, well, if this guy, Tim, can start a business where he can work from anywhere in the world with a laptop, I want to do that too. And that essentially is what inspired me. I had no idea I would end up being a coach, a mentor, a guide. I had no idea of the online marketing world. I knew nothing, but here we are today. Yeah, like 10
years
When
was that?
See, music was 2009 was my last professional show. And up until that point, I had done that for like 10 years.
Oh, wow.
So yeah. I'm like an OG in the digital world.
Okay. Yeah. So you just jumped in and figured it out.
We did figure it out. Yes. Just figured it out. I actually bought Mike Koenig's program called Social Media Marketing Machines. I think that was 2011 when he was doing that launch. If I got my dates right, 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there on Christmas time. And I saw the wave of social media coming from Mike, and I jumped on board, invested in his program. I think it was $5,000 or $3,000 or something of that nature at the time. Yeah. And that's what taught me the game. And then I built like a social media marketing agency. And then I got really burnt out because I didn't know how to scale and build the team and do all of that stuff. And then I hired Garrett J. White, 2012. And Garrett was like, yo, dude, why don't you just start teaching people like what you're doing? And I'm like, well, that'd be fun. Let's do that.
I can hear his voice saying that too.
Awesome. So then I started like hosting live events, and then it's just kind of grown over the years. And my way of doing things has definitely changed. I have changed completely as well.
Yeah, it's a big personal development journey when you're an entrepreneur, isn't it?
Very much so.
So what kind of services do you provide right now for people? Where's your business today?
Yeah, business right now is like deep dive coaching for just a handful of people. Most of it is pushing people into our signature course called Project Shift. So Project Shift is all about shifting who somebody is being at a core fundamental level, so they have more confidence and certainty to be able to like go out and do the things from a place of power rather than force.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. So let's talk about obstacles for a minute. What kind of obstacles showed up once you said, yes, I'm in? And, how did you deal with them?
I think the biggest obstacle for me was I tried all the paths that people said to do in the online marketing space, and I kept hitting like a glass ceiling. Yeah. And so I was like, what's really going on? Like, I understood the chat bots. I've done the thing. Like, why why does it not seem to be working? Why does it seem like I am dragging anchors behind me as I'm going up this mountain? I'm pretty willful. So I'll like just dig down and grit it out and we'll get to the top anyway, but it's still exhausting. And so I chose to just like really take a deep look at why. And so what I discovered was that I was trying to prove my worthiness to the world. It's almost like to the marketplace. I'm like, look, if you guys will tell me I'm awesome, then maybe then I'll believe it about myself. And what I learned is like there's the law of being that governs the planet. Just like gravity, if I had a pen in my hand and dropped it right now, like it says going to fall, I can meditate, I can visualize, I can have positive affirmations, I could hold it up, whatever. But at some point, like the pen is going to fall. And so the law of being states that the world will give us exactly that which we are at our core. And our core consists of the feelings and the thoughts that we're holding on to predominantly. So many people, myself included, run the success equation that says, I will be worthy of success or independence or security or acceptance when I have X, Y, or Z, or when I become A, B, or C.
Yeah.
And what happens is we're then trying to defy the law of being and creating the thing. Because if I'm saying, well, when I have, the root is I don't have. If I'm saying when I become, the root is I am not.
Yes.
And so in accordance with the law of being, the world is going to continue to give me opportunities to express that which I am at my core, which is not the thing that I want to experience.
Yes. So
So
good.
until I learn how to internally source that I have nothing to prove, nothing to defend to any human being on the planet, and that I can choose to go create something, not because I have something to prove or defend or justify, but just because I choose it.
Yes.
From that place, I found power and started to generate more and more results with less and less stress. Now, that doesn't mean that everything is like rainbows and butterflies and cotton candy.
Right.
Like, we're going to have some contrast on earth.
Yes.
But our ability to then respond to that contrast and use it as some feedback to adjust becomes a lot more freeing, a lot more liberating, rather than like grit and force and determination.
How did you get there? How did you recognize what you were actually doing and then course correct?
I was at a breakthrough event 2015 with Jeremy Eugene Wilson of Soldiers Inc. And it's an event called Being Evolution. I think there was like 5 guys there. And so 2015, I'd been on the journey for 5 years, whatever. And I was just like, I had enough. I was burnt out. I was like, something has changed. I met Jeremy through Garrett inside of Warrior. It wasn't like Garrett introduced me or anything. We were part of Warrior at different times. And so when Jeremy invited me to Being Evolution, he said something one day in the boardroom, which was, gentlemen, at the end of the day, the modern day currency is trust and respect. And if you don't trust and respect yourself, then how in the hell can you expect anybody outside of you, including your marketplace, to trust and respect you? And like that, for whatever reason, that hit me like a ton of bricks. And I remember thinking the day, I looked down, read my journal, I was like, trust and respect modern day currency. Fuck, man. I don't trust and respect myself. I'm looking out there to the marketplace to give me trust and respect. And then maybe I would give it to myself. And that was the awakening for me, where I was like, I got to figure out how to trust and respect myself internally, not out there. Cause I had been doing that from high school to college, to sports, to rock and roll. Like I had achieved all of things, the academics, a graduated salutatorian, or as my father likes to say, the first loser. Same thing in college, same thing in rock and roll, getting record deals and all of it. It was all to prove or defend, always looking out there for trust and respect. So once that was then brought into my awareness, I had a choice.
Yeah.
Do I continue to look out there for trust and respect, or do I go down the journey to figure out how to reclaim all of the goodness inside?
And I'm guessing you went on the journey.
Yes, I did. And still am on that journey.
Every single day, right?
That's right.
So what would you say the biggest lesson you've learned from being an entrepreneur is?
The biggest lesson. So the ancient sages said something like, as within, so without. And I always thought that was kind of a cool saying, right? They also said like, what you resist persists. And I always thought that was a cool saying. And I think that's been my biggest lesson, is that timeless truth is true. And I think so, coming back to the success equation, people are like, trying to build success, whatever they deem that as, no right or wrong, usually in resistance to the thing that they're terrified of being.
Yeah.
Meaning, many are terrified of being mediocre. And so therefore, from that place in reaction into resistance of the beingness of mediocrity, they then go out to prove that they are not mediocre. And in doing so, they just stay in a hamster wheel of just like internal pressure rather than cutting the cords and accepting that at the end of the day, they're mediocre and that's okay. Like accepting that part of them that's terrified of being mediocre, because maybe in their culture, maybe in their upbringing with their family, like they wouldn't have been accepted. And while that then helped them get to a level of success currently, it usually is not serving them to get to that next level. So like my biggest lesson has become like really starting to understand those deep spiritual timeless truths, not from like some spiritual ethereal, like it's something nice to say, but at a very, very practical level that yields tangible results.
I think a lot of people are caught up in that and they don't know. They try to do their way out of things.
Yes. Yes. And they also try to think their way out of things.
Right.
Right.
Overthinking, overjudging.
And in this game of entrepreneurship, like it's almost like a badge of honor we wear. I just need to level up my mindset. That way I can think my way out of this. I just need some new skill sets, some new strategic action so I can do my way out of this.
Yeah.
And while both of those things have merit,
Yes.
they will only get you so far. If there's a third camp that most people don't talk about, which is what I call body set, like the emotional intelligence that lives within our body, learning how to use our emotional feedback as the messages they are to then fuel and propel us into a place of power. And from this place, it's like we have this three-legged stool where we're like grounded, like, and we have power and we can start yielding results from a place that doesn't require so much force and so much stress because we're grounded here. Is this making sense, Patty?
Oh, absolutely. It's the emotional language. Your emotions are a language. It's the most important language.
Yes.
And it's the piece that people try to control rather than communicate with.
Exactly.
Which then those other pieces you're talking about, the skills and the thinking, those will come naturally once we speak the language of emotion.
Exactly. And the problem with at least our Western world, in my opinion, is there's certain emotions that we deem as bad or wrong. Now, if we've ever studied anything by like David Hawkins, like if you ever studied Power versus Force, Skill of Consciousness, to me, it's like, to the degree that you're willing to go and accept death is the degree in which you can experience life.
Yes.
Right? And most people then want to stop at like, oh, I'm feeling some guilt, feeling some shame. Oh, I don't know. Oh, I don't want to feel anger. And there's a way to like be with the anger and like be with it, express it, and channel that into creation. Rather than saying, God, consciousness, universe, not that anger. That one's not any good. Exactly. And what happens?
Rid of it. No.
Exactly. And what happens? Exactly. And what happens is we then cut the flow of God, consciousness, life force. We cut a degree of that off.
Yeah.
Therefore, limiting our capacity to create.
Yes. You guys, I love this, man. This is truth right here. Bottom line truth. So glad to hear it coming out of your mouth.
Awesome.
So tell me, what are your passions right now? What are you up to?
Man, it's been weird since COVID, to be honest. Like a lot of my passions, my wife and I, and my daughter is 19 months old now. We love to travel. Like we just spent, before COVID, we got back in January. COVID was in March. We had traveled Europe for 6 months. We were planning on actually going back. And there was something within me when we got to England in January. And we're coming back to the States anyway, just for a couple of weeks. But I was like, I think we should stay. I don't know why. There's this something within me saying stay. And so we ended up buying renting a condo here again because we had sold our real estate holdings here when we went to Europe just I don't know, just felt like The market was high. It was too good to be true. So we unloaded everything, put the money in the bank, and then just traveled a bit, and we still worked and all of that stuff. So right now it's like, what's fun? Going to the pool, going on hikes, wading in the creek that's out here behind our place.
Yeah.
Hanging out with friends, still hanging out with family, all of that good stuff. That's pretty much all our fun consists of right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Tell me about your vision. What are you creating in the next 5 or so years?
Putting 10,000, like I really want to help 10,000 people really kind of become that unstoppable beacon of light. Whether that means like they're being that beacon of light for their family or they're being that beacon of light in their business, it doesn't matter to me. But just really helping them like doing the work, the shadow work, like starting to reclaim all of those unloved pieces of them, helping them remember that they are the soul in control. And from that place, getting clear on the desires that want to express through them. There's like 4 phases of life that I found. Life happens as me, life happens to me, life happens by me, and life happens through me. And probably the people that listen to your show are probably in the phase 3 of life. Life happens by me. They're probably taking radical responsibility for their results. And there's so much benefit, and life gets really, really good there. And then there's a small segment of people who choose to come in and dance into life happens through me, where they're still responsible, but they've learned how to like surrender. And I'm not going to say that I'm fully there yet. I definitely am kind of spending probably maybe typically 90-10, 80-20, and kind of ebb and flow. And my intention for my own life is to spend more and more time in that 4th phase, life happening through me, and reaching back and helping more and more people who are in that phase 3 of life, life happens by me, to really start dancing with the divine, to actually start serving more people.
Beautiful. I feel like for me, that takes a very high level of trust.
Yes.
Constantly checking in on my trust level.
Yeah.
Are you trusting right now, or where's your come from?
Yeah. And human design is probably one of the best soul sciences that I found up until this point, that helps every single human being find what their authority is. Because it's not the same for every single human. It's different things for different people. So like for me, my authority is sacral. So that means in the bottom of my gut, I feel, like, yes, let's do this, or let's not do this. So for anyone who's sacral, they live and die by being sacral. And sometimes that means you take a foot in, you're like, and they're and you retreat back, and it's learning to listen to that dance. Yeah. For other people, they're like emotional clarity. So they have to like ride their wave, and they learn to like really pay attention to their emotions, like we've been talking about. Yeah. And just because it feels good in this moment, they have enough wisdom to say, this feels good, but let me sleep on it, and I'll get back to you at 10 a.m. in the morning, or 11, or whatever agreement they want to set. And they can kind of check back in, and that they start learning to ride their waves and using their authority. And so, yeah, human design's been a great tool to help me really figure that whole game out of surrender.
Yeah, I love that. I dove into that just within the last year. Awesome. First, I discovered Gene Keys, and I listened to all of those, Richard Rudd, and went through all of that. And then I went to human design, which is kind of backwards from what most people do. But wow,
it's perfect.
It's amazing. And, I'm sacral too. And so I was like, yep, I'm in.
Perfect.
Okay, so let's talk about growth. Like we've touched on it with human design.
Yeah.
But just sharing, I'm doing this series on entrepreneurs who are really aligned and making a difference in the world, living life on their own terms, making the money they want, making their own rules. And yet I'm also really curious about how people get there. I want to bring that to my audience and share with them a few of the resources that you've used along the way. And I'm curious to start, like, what's the best advice you believe you've ever received?
I think it's aligned with the truth. I think so oftentimes we as entrepreneurs, we want to justify, we want to defend that the truth isn't the truth. And some of the best advice is to fall in love with the truth of where you're at. And oftentimes we as entrepreneurs, we attach our identity to the truth of where we're at. And the reality is where we're at has nothing to do with our identity. Like if we think it is, then our identity's caught up in the success equation bullshit. I'll be
Mhm.
worthy of independence, security, success, worthiness, whatever, no, you're worthy now because you breathe oxygen. Like
Exactly.
there's nothing to prove. There's nothing to fit. Like you're worthy. You could have been a rock, but you're not.
Exactly.
You're here. So when we can align with that truth, and then we can start getting ridiculously clear on, well, what is it that I really desire? What is it that I want to experience? And then like, once we can be like, cool, I would like to experience this. Okay, cool. Where am I at? And what's the gap between where I'm at and where I want to go? And then asking another question, which is like, well, who would I be being to have the thing I desire? Who would that guy or that gal be? And then getting aware of that and then choosing to be that now.
Yes.
And then from that being place,
Mhm.
we can start doing some things to have the things.
Yes.
And
That
so
we
for me, that's some of the best advice that I've been given.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. Excellent advice. It's similar to what my answer would be. Like really tuning in. I think that, you know, a lot of people miss that important part of just
Yeah.
listening to themselves.
I don't think they don't know how.
Yeah, that's true. We aren't really taught that, and we aren't really allowed the space to do that growing up, right? We're
No.
told what to do. We're never asked who we want to be. Well, not everybody, most people.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think even if you were asked, the answer we would come up with would not be truth.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of my biggest breakthroughs have been being called to certain experiential learning experiences
Yeah.
to put me into a place of very much of discomfort to learn things that I didn't know existed about myself.
Mm.
That's where my big transformational, my quantum leaps happened, was stepping into a space, stepping into a container
Yeah.
where I gave someone permission to like explore the parts of me and help bring me awareness and perceptions of me that I didn't even know that were there.
That takes trust.
Yeah. The thing is, if you have true trust and respect for yourself, it's not scary.
Yeah.
But most people are terrified
Mm.
of their dark parts of them. And until they're willing to trust themselves to know that they have the capacity to turn the light on,
Yeah.
there's nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love that so much. Okay, let's talk about resources. What resources could you share with our listeners? Books, podcasts, blogs. What do you recommend?
One book is my book called Mindset is Not Enough. People can find that at ajamyx.com/book.
We'll
It's a
put that
great
in the
book.
show notes, you guys, if you want to
Brilliant.
check that out.
My podcast, Anthony John Amyx podcast, every single Sunday, I do a Sunday sermon series where I do like a Sunday sermon on like personal development and my way of just like speaking what I want to say about truth and doctrine and things of that nature. It's really fun. And then also, I would probably say dive into Neville Goddard's work. Like Your Faith is Your Fortune. The Resurrection is another great book. Feeling is the Secret. Pretty much anything you can read from Neville Goddard is
Yeah.
going to be life-changing.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. One more question. If you were to do this all over again, looking back, and, maybe you're 17, 20, your younger self, what would you tell yourself?
Great question. I would tell my younger self, you're enough.
Beautiful.
I tell my younger self, you're enough. You have nothing to prove, nothing to defend, and play your game. It's okay to be selfish because that allows us to then be selfless.
Love it.
Because I have integrity and I walk with integrity with my values. And so in knowing that, nobody's going to be harmed. See, Patty, I think so many people, they don't claim their anger. They don't claim their sexuality. They don't claim their shadows. They don't claim the totality of who they are because they're they genuinely have good hearts.
Mm.
They're like, I don't want to hurt people. I grew up with people who are angry and they hurt people. I don't want to be like them. I grew
Mm-hmm.
up with people who abuse people with their sexuality. I don't want to be sexual.
Mm.
I grew up with people who just bitched and complained the whole time, and I don't want to be like them.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is they then created a belief system that says, I will never be that.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, they locked a little part of them inside a closet.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're creating from force because they're creating in resistance.
Yes.
Rather than understanding and accepting, like, cool, I can be angry. I can feel my anger. And also I can still learn how to walk in integrity with my values and never hurt another human being.
Beautiful.
I can learn how to like embrace my sexuality and again, still walk with integrity in my values and never hurt another human being. And ultimately that's what allows us to have the power to like create our flow, our purpose here on earth.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing you.
You're welcome. Thanks
on
for
the
having
show and in the world. I really appreciate
awesome.
you.
You're welcome.
All right. Bye for now. Okay. Thank you. That was amazing.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, Patty.
Are you ready to unleash your business and live a life of meaning and impact? The first step is to understand the gifts that you have to share in the world. And we do that by looking at your values, your personality style, and your life purpose. We combine those three together and create a business of truth and purpose. Head on over to the Entrepreneur Unleashed at pattykeating.com and take the entrepreneur code assessment to uncover your greatest gifts. See you there. Hello and welcome. I'm recording this episode from my home office during self-quarantine as we were all asked to stay home due to the coronavirus. If you like what you hear and you'd like to hear more, please join me in my Facebook group. It's called The Unleashed Entrepreneurs. You can search that on Facebook. Come on over. It's a community of thriving entrepreneurs making a difference in the world, doing what they love, and changing lives. Hope to see you there. Enjoy the show. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Have you ever wondered what you could do to make your own business and grow it online? Head on over to pattykeating.com and take the entrepreneur code. You'll discover your unique value, your personality style, and how you can combine those two into a thriving business that helps people and lets you make money doing what you love. I'll see you there. Bye for now.